Okay, so I'm Thomas Blair.
And I'm Mark Hallish.
And this is our live session where we read patch notes, show sneak peeks of stuff that's coming, and we talk about why we did things in the patch notes. Right, basically. And we have a month's worth of patch notes.
Lots and lots of patch notes to come.
Joining us on the other side whispering is John and Jack. And is sound working great, guys? Everything good to go?
It is working fantastically.
We also have a giant screen over here this week, and we can see all your chat. Normally, we're kind of all hunched over this laptop when we're trying to read what people say.
Little tiny words.
Tiny little words. But this week, we can see all of the words. So feel free to say things, because we'll actually be able to read them.
We'll see them.
Yeah, normally we can't see anything you guys say.
Blissfully unaware.
Oh, somebody pushed a button. Oh, it was streaming, whatever. Okay, all right. Well, let's start.
All right, let's do it.
Let's start. Welcome to Tuesday.
Tuesday.
July
14th.
Okay. No, actually, these are the patch notes from July 14th.
Yes. No, I realize that, Blair.
Okay. Adjusted Ganeshan harvesting animations. I guess that didn't look very good. Fixed a bug in which Constitution bonus did not get added to the hit point total when rechoosing the same vessel type. This means, for example, that a knight gains 5 hit points per Constitution, increasing his base by 27 times 5. So one of the nice things about putting a character sheet in game, as we have in our develop branch, is we can now start seeing the math problems with our stat system.
Yeah.
So great for you guys, because we just fix it in all the branches, and things like Constitution actually gives health bonuses.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, there's a new settings in the escape menu been added. You'll notice that comes in from the left now. That one's not interesting. I'm looking for the more interesting ones that we can talk about.
Yeah. There's campaign stuff, right? So add toast event when previously unclaimed fort is captured, so you can tell when somebody's capturing enemy forts.
There's a note in here about updating the fly text, and it still doesn't look the way we want it to look, because we use something in Unity called Text Mesh Pro, I believe is the name of it, and it doesn't behave well with our fly text. It looks all this weird, like this. It's crazy. Yeah, we're going to be trying to tweak and tune that so it looks good. Okay. Make catapult camera less likely to get stuck on the catapult collider by adjusting the driver's seat camera offset values and adjust the interact position a bit further from the catapult collider to address dismount sticking. So we had to resurrect the catapults. The last time we'd used catapults was Siege Perilous, and we didn't use them for a year.
Long time.
So you can imagine when you leave something in the garage for a year, like there's spider webs, crusties, and it just didn't turn over. So there's a lot of things that you'll notice a lot of notes about us fixing the catapults.
Yeah, getting those back into action.
Okay. Map tool. Support for maps in campaign and EK worlds has been added. Press M to view the map's current position. Press App to close the window.
Hot diggity dog.
Yeah, you can press M to close it. It wasn't originally in there, so you had to press M and then go looking for the X to...
And in fact, every time we wanted to press M but we couldn't, we bothered Tommy about it.
Yeah, we bothered the engineer, and he very quickly added it. Okay. Fog of War white blocks appear on the map until an area is fully discovered. So originally they weren't those white blocks. We went in with, like, they were clouds, I believe. And the problem is the assets were sticking up through the clouds. So you could look at a map and you could see where all the keeps were. Because of like, hey, that's a little bit of a tower pointing up there. So we put in the... Hey, Weebles asked, can we bother Tommy for custom skill keybinds? I believe the custom skill keybinds are working and developed with the rewired remapping.
With some of them. I don't know if you can remap everything yet.
With the new power bar that Akshay is hooking up, you can actually remap all of the buttons down below.
Nice. So
that will be a thing coming in 5.3. Performance issues, a feature, not a bug. Yep, we're always working on performance stuff. But that's what happens. You add something new, you got to go back and re-optimize. Yeah. You just can't put a shark fin on top of the car and not expect to have to go optimize it a little bit. Okay, first pass on skill tree interface has been added, including more detail on the current skill and training. To see more info, control will now expand into the selected skills tooltip. Yep, Susie gave us the control system as a thing for all tooltips. So we're going to start bearing more and more hidden information in the tooltips. And you don't have to see it most of the time, but if you're really interested, hold that left control key down and you may find out some cool stuff. Fixed issue where crafting skills were capped at 10 for many archetypes. Oh, yeah, that was a data bug. I was looking in the data, and or was it you? It was like,
no,
hey,
it was you. Oh, no, actually, no, it was me. It was like, hey, Blair, should all these be 10?
Yeah, basically, we added in the skill capping stuff a couple months ago, and we have thousands of lines of data, and some of that stuff just didn't have its initial data set up right. And as we see those things, we fix them. Or you guys come up with a bug and we go looking at the bug and we're like, hey.
Right. And for reference, they're usually 100-point scales. So, or at least internally, there's a 100-point scale that's going on. So those being 10 mean they're capping at 1/10 of the way they should have been.
So that's fixed now. Will you guys fix PCM on paired weapons, or will you just wait until 5.3 when paired weapons are gone? Yeah, paired weapons are gone. All of our good math is in the 5.3 branch. We're really not going to be tuning too much to, we don't want to spend too much time on it because it's already gone in 5.3. We'll make it as playable as possible, but don't want to spend a lot of time on it. New while you're away window has been added because we added to put the pips on there. Updates to while you're away toast notifications now use pips. That's what I just said. Fix the hitching that happened when opening the skills window. That was a good one. So as engineers do this, a lot of times they'll implement it and not really worry too much about optimization. And they go back and realize that they're updating a screen every frame. Yeah. Redrawing the whole screen every frame. And you can imagine what that does for performance. Tanks it. So we're definitely more aware of those things now, and we will optimize as possible. Hitting escape while in the skills UI closes it. Great. Crafting. Updated parcel recipes to now use specific parcels instead of a parcel category size. Okay. Added cartography and cartography components to crafting menu recipes for creating a blank map. Right. If you're going to be able to make maps, you need to be able to craft the things and then hand them off. Removed old siege recipes from the crafting list. Yes, since we got the hippo tech, we're now just going to use the hippos in there. There is going to be some recipes, I think, though, for the dregs version. We're still working on that stuff.
Yeah, 5.3 is going to be big.
Yeah, 5.3 is a big one. Yeah, and it's race class split, all of the
skill stuff.
All of the power bar rework, the entire bar, the actual UI functionality of it reworked. The entirety of the skills rework, which is huge now. The new skills UIs, the navigation UIs, those are all looking good. The character sheet.
A lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff coming in that. But we got to make it through the 5.2 cycle.
Right. First things first.
We're going to finish out 5.2. Okay, back to the patch notes. Replace gear reagent with polished gemstone for ballista and catapult blueprint recipes. Hey, look, we've frozen on our screen down there.
Yeah, we've been frozen for a while down there.
I'm going to hit refresh just so we can see ourselves animating.
I presume.
Yep.
It's just very distracting.
Yep. Updated experimentation for weapon crafting recipes to now use single damage line instead of min-max double lines during experimentation for the following items. There's a bunch of items, but why don't you talk about why we did that, Mark? Remember they had 2 lines?
Right. Oh, yeah. Basically, so things are a little more even, right? I mean...
And you could... remember what you could do with the min?
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. You could experiment the min over the max, which it just created some weirdness, right? So I mean, it's
always weird
better this way, right? I mean, because if we let you, if we give you enough space to experiment on the minimum and the maximum, you could actually get the minimum above the maximum, which is totally weird.
Yes, when your min is higher than your max, weird things happen. Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. So we prevented that. We now link those. Instead of experimenting on 2 lines, you experiment on 1 for most of these things. All right, we're over to disciplines. Remove the duration detailed tooltips from several disciplines where duration is not being used as a token in the English ability description.
Yes. So this one is very interesting. So this is particularly the case of, for example, you have a field that lasts 15 seconds. Right, and then while you're in that field, it applies an effect that lasts 3 seconds, and we have
okay.
Right, so I mean, basically, one of the there were complaints that hey, this says the duration is 15 seconds, but it only lasts for 3, and so basically, in those cases, we're just not going to put a duration in the, because in the tooltip we have little quick, what would you call them? Little, basically, icons.
Yeah, the icons.
I guess.
Yeah,
right?
I would call those icons.
I guess that is a term for them. To let you see right away what the cooldown is,
the
range, cost, stuff like that. And one of those things is duration. And so in cases where we have a lot of abilities that just do a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And so,
our abilities are not super simple. Like, I swing and I deal damage.
Right.
It's like I put something down, it does something that could do something else.
Right. And we have a lot of things that do that. So this is basically saying that in those cases we're not going to try to put a duration, use duration when we have 5 different durations going on.
Right.
Right. So I mean,
because also that tooltip, if we put all those durations in there, as well as everything.
And what
else.
does it even mean, right? Like, do we need an icon for the field versus the effect versus the, and eventually it just becomes really noisy. So better to just say it in a tooltip than try to.
Yeah. Right. And those things take a lot of time too. Like
they do, surprisingly enough.
Surprisingly enough, when we're making powers, and this is just a kind of a segue into a side thing, is it just we spend as much time on that tooltip in a lot of cases as we do actually making the power function. I mean, the tool is pretty advanced now, and you and I know pretty much how to build a power to do what we want to do, so we can generally do that pretty quick. It's actually, we have a power balance sheet that we go to where we determine the damage values, and that sheet feeds into the tooltip values, and then there's another sheet that determines the resource cost and cooldown timers, and that sheet feeds into the tooltip, and then you need to make it
cost, all this stuff.
Then you need to make the English good and
the good English.
The good English, so it makes sense. And yeah, if you guys have specific tooltips that you can't understand, we would love to know about it. Just post on the forums, and we'll revisit them. But anyways, making the tooltip in a lot of cases is, as I said, just as hard as making the power.
And we have hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, we're well over 500 powers at this point. Okay, continuing on. Major disciplines. It is now easier to hit with single target attacks. Basically, it's every melee attack.
Yeah, and they're enumerated in painstaking order for the next 2 pages. Just letting you know.
Okay, so we have 2 pages of this should be easier to hit with.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, so when we put this in, this was the introduction of the soft targeting stuff, and it didn't work on the charged or channel ones properly.
Right.
So Ranger actually took a if you remember that update, because we fixed it in the next week, but for this specific week when we put it in, the target was acquired when you started charging or when you started channeling. So if you started channeling and you weren't on a target and then you got on the target, you still missed.
Yeah.
And if you started charging and you weren't on target and then put it on the target, you still missed.
So not so exciting for Rangers this patch, but
we fixed it the patch after. So but
yeah, because we were surprised actually. We're like, Rangers, why are you so sad? You know,
it's like,
because when we tried it, we're fine. But
because when we started, we were on target.
Yeah.
We didn't. When I was testing it, I didn't have a moving target because
Right.
the dummies weren't moving. But anyways, we got that fixed, and you guys submitted a lot of videos that actually helped us kind of narrow the problem down. It's like, oh, that's what's going on. A lot of times, us fixing bugs is actually it's finding the problem and going, what is actually going on here? So. Thank you for all those videos. They really helped. Okay, specific discipline stuff. What's going on with Field Surgeon?
Oh, let's see. Correcting an issue, preventing the noble purpose resource restoration effect from happening. Yes, that's right. As many were complaining about how OP noble purpose was, there was actually a case where it didn't work at all. So fix that. And it was actually the case we cared about the most, which was a particular case of it affecting another person. It was working like really well for you, which is what the next 2 notes are about. Noble purpose no longer works on yourself and can only trigger once every 15 seconds, and that's basically puts it in line with pretty much the rest of the resource restoration effects in the game. So basically just balance things out a little bit. And the one under that, rehabilitation now only heals your target. So again, that's another one that was really well. It was turning into the must-have heal on your bar. So that's not what we want. So it is no longer that. It only now heals your target.
So generally, we tend to balance these things after we see what it's like in the live
I mean,
ecosystem.
we always take a good first pass on stuff, but really until things get into the wild and start being used,
And this one, I think, lived
scale.
the way it was for like 3 weeks, just because of
broken. I don't think we didn't have
a new update for them.
Yeah,
we had fixed it right away,
right.
but it sat in the queue waiting to go forward.
And then we had to listen to.
So Master of Focus. The pushback from Nova can only affect target once and turn damage to match ticks and duration of the effect. I think it was just because I made a super OP power.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. You had a pulsing pushback that basically made it a 10-second crowd control that you could just do over and over. So people...
they did that.
They did that. They really did.
They really did that.
Used it that way, yeah.
You're like, oh, hey, this is a 10-second crowd control that you can't get out of. Okay, so yeah, sometimes we have to make those things not do that. Best intentions.
Yep.
Okay, reflect heat adds 25 fire armor.
Yeah, just to make that a little beefier, put it on par with the other types.
Funny enough, and it wasn't in this patch, but that led to actually being 50 fire armor.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good point.
So one of the things that we noticed when we were putting the character sheet in to develop, I was like, this is weird. My stats are all high. And then I happened to remember that the combat formula actually has a specific line where it grabs your bonus mitigation and then reapplies it. So at one point, it wasn't being added to the equipment, but now that we can see the character sheet, we can see, oh, when you equip a piece of armor, it grabs your bonus value and your armor value, adds them on there. However, the combat formula never knew about that, so it was grabbing that value and then adding your bonus again. So there's a reason that basically any bonus mitigation that we've been giving out has been ×2 effectively. Yeah. So that's how people were becoming immune to bleeds.
Yeah, and there's a lot of results, or a lot of different bugs that came out of
yes,
that this was basically causing, right? One of them was the bleed one. There was a couple situations where it was like, hey, why does it was an anti-electrical one? It's like, hey, I do this and druids can't hurt me at all.
Yep.
What the heck?
So anytime you go over 100% mitigation, you're bad. Yeah. So we have it roughly. There's a stat cap in there at 75%, and because this was happening outside of that, you were going way over that.
Yeah.
So you guys should already have the fixed stuff out there, but it's just funny looking at that one. I was like, hey, they were actually getting 50 there.
Right.
Now it's back to 25. Okay, Master of Pistols. Reduce the additional delay before the first pulse of rapid fire, so it's a little easier to score and expose punish on attacking targets.
Right. And so what that is basically, so rapid fire is a channeled ability, and a lot of times we will delay, just as a matter of course, there's a delay on the first tick, usually equal to what the tick delay is. And so what that does when you're trying to basically time it so that you're nailing somebody, that actually makes it difficult to do that. So basically I shaved that back as far as it can go, so it's a little easier to use that as an exposed punisher.
I know how that works because I've seen the game effects in the powers. Why don't you explain how the exposed punish stuff works? Because some people may still not be aware of it because we're not really messaging it very well.
Yeah. So while you're exposed,
and how do you get exposed?
Specialist uses like right now basically would be duelist uses recon.
Okay. The assassin has one as well.
The assassin has one. Will
Ranger will get one.
Ranger's getting one.
Yep.
So basically, when target is exposed, they can be hit with an exposed punish. And so what that does is, if you are attacking while you're exposed and you get hit with a punish, you're knocked down basically. Right, so basically, when you're exposed, it's dangerous to attack a specialist while you're exposed, or to do attacks period around a specialist. Right?
And they can only expose while they're in stealth, if I remember correctly, right? So they actually have to be stealth. So it's basically useful for
expose is very powerful, right? Exposed punish is very powerful, but it's also not necessarily easy to get on, right? You can the duelist can only do it from stealth. So assassin as well.
Yeah, I don't want people thinking like, hey, specialists all have free knockdowns because they can just put this debuff on you. But they actually need to be stealth, which means they can't do it in combat. They have to do it in the I'm about to open on this person phase, right? And then it lasts the duration. And then maybe if you can get back into like the duelist were to vanish, and then he could reapply it. But then again, that burns his ultimate to actually do something like that.
Right, and bring up some situations like, for example, the Plague Lord Major Discipline. applies expose based on healing, right? So basically, in this situation, it's something that particularly counters healing, right? So yeah, so there's different cases where, and there's a couple different versions of that where I'm trying to think what the other ones are, but particularly Plague Lord is a good example of a way to apply expose outside of stealth. So
you do not have to be in stealth currently. You just need your stealth bar as duelist. Racial stealth does not actually swap your bar.
Right.
So one of the pieces you guys haven't seen yet, which is what Akshay and I have been working on the last 2 weeks, which is the bars actually being more codified as kind of stance swappers. And your power to go into one of those bars is outside of your tray. It's actually linked to the side of that tray. So your burrow essentially for Ganetians is outside of that. Your stealth for assassins is not in your bar. It's actually to the side of the bar.
Right. So it's giving a bar slot.
Right. But we now will know when you're in that tray. We have better control over that. So
right.
Plague Lord is OP. Maybe. There's lots of things. Okay. So now that you know how expose works,
indeed,
doesn't it also do something if you're blocking? Can't you use it as a block breaker?
Exactly, yes. Expose actually does prevent... So while you're blocking, you're immune to crowd control unless you're exposed. So, and that's both block and Templar parry. They're both considered blocks, basically.
And the cleric one?
Cleric one as well. So, and that's to help give you a way, because it's really like a blocking healer is really strong. And so that's to help give you an avenue to take down the blocking healer. So,
gotcha. Okay, moving on. Master Mystical Staves fixed an issue with Soothing Winds animation does not cancel and continues to stack on itself. No clue what that one was. I didn't do that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is either. That actually is very mysterious.
I just mentioned the blocking thing. Updated stat mods on the root of many powers to be consistent for cooldowns and resource costs. Again, we try and make them as consistent as possible, leading to less scenarios of this thing being the best. Classes, champion, it's now easy to hit with melee attacks, duelist. So anyone play the melee guys and think it's easier or not to hit? We'd love some feedback on that. We did fix a bug this week. I think Susie had a case where if you were too close, your targeting was actually hitting you and not actually the target. So duelist, again, easier to block. Fixed a tooltip for Ironwood Body to reflect reality and replace manual entered tokens with actual words. Reduced medication amount. I don't think we needed to put that one out there. So
yeah, and so it's funny, you actually have this on another note. A lot of these are, well, some of these, not a lot of these, but a couple of these actually are internal notes that are actually fixing things in some cases that you never actually saw, if that makes sense. Because a lot of times we have a lot of internal playtests before you guys actually see the build we're working on, and so a lot of I know at least a few of these notes are reflective of things that we only saw internally. That never hit.
But to explain what this is, in our tooltips that we had talked about earlier, a lot of cases we'll use a string token. That way we only have to localize it once. Right. So duration is a token. It's like a keyword for us, and we can put it in there. And sometimes people just type out a tooltip and they'll manually put the word duration in there, which we don't want to do because then that means that entire string needs to be It's basically just a localization thing.
Yeah.
We try and do it to make localization easier on us, and so things are more consistent because we just get the word duration localized once, and anytime we use it, it's the same translation. Whereas if somebody uses it in there, it may end up as a different word completely based on who localized that thing. So localization is a big thing, and it affects a lot of things that we do because we want everybody to be able to read in their native language. Okay, Knight, it should be easier to hit with single target melee abilities. Same with the Legionnaire, even though I haven't seen the Legionnaire in weeks in the branch that I'm working in.
Yeah.
So he's gone to me.
He's dead. He's dead to Blair.
I've already said my goodbyes to him. He's been replaced by the cleric, who is far cooler. Anyways, Myrmidon, it is now easier to hit with single target melee attacks. Ranger, same thing, except that was a lie. It was true for their melee attacks, not for their ranged attacks. But again, we fixed that. Templar ultimate abilities can now be used while stunned, knocked down, and suppressed.
That just puts them in line with others who can do that.
Templar cannot gain supercharge while the health buff from Brilliance is active. Okay, so basically we don't want them going back to back to back to back. And while we do the same thing on Ultimate Warrior for the champion. Once he's Ultimate Warriored, he can't gain hatred until he comes out of Ultimate Warrior. So otherwise you would use it back. Centaur phobia. No, it's not centaur phobia. It's legionnaire phobia. Legionnaire. I love the centaur. He is pretty cool in the branch that I'm working in, as you will see. Okay, we got a bunch of known issues. I don't know that we need... Let's just jump to the next set of patch notes. Okay.
21st.
We're on the 21st. Updated the skill tree tooltip so parent names don't extend past the edge of the tooltip. Yeah, we spend a lot of time on our tooltips because we want you... I know you guys may be like, yeah, tooltips aren't... We spend a lot of time, so please appreciate them. And our engineers that put a lot of hours into making the tooltips look good. So you know what your items do, you know what your powers do, all kinds of things. Completely removed all the fog settings. This fixes the excessive fog issue at the default slider and was clamping the fog distance in editor. So in our development area, the fog was so tight I couldn't see past. It was like the movie The Mist.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
It was like I was waiting for the monsters from the Toadash Darkness to come out and get me. Okay, something with the map. Fixed an issue with the map after using a power, freezing the power's visible cooldown. That was annoying.
Yeah. Display issue.
Fixed an issue with the map causing the power bar to decrease in size. How did the map have so many power bar interactions? Oh. Good thing we've replaced that power bar in 5.3. Update to the skill tooltip so the parent tree names don't extend past the... That was in there twice.
Yeah, you just read that.
Yeah, I did. Building placement tool. When placing a building, the ghost for that building now also creates the ghost for all contained buildings. That way you know basically what you're placing down.
Which is helpful.
Yep. Ghost buildings now don't stick around if you spam escape during clicking on a deed.
Are they scary ghost buildings?
They are, in fact, not scary ghost buildings. But again, we're trying to tell people what they're doing, so it's not a mystery. Okay, classes. Shroud of Darkness won't stun you if you initiate damage on yourself, for example, by falling. Really? It was stunning you?
Absolutely.
Damn it!
There were a couple of those.
Basically, so it was probably looking for damage taken. Just basically damage taken reflecting back to...
Oh, yeah. Well, if you remember, until... Geez, I think... we've had it for a little while, but we until this time, we actually didn't have a way to filter out you from that proc. So you would do things... Actually, and it's this very case, the Shroud of Darkness stun, I believe, was the reason... one of the reasons we had that added. It probably just took me a month to actually get back to doing it.
Gotcha.
Or for that build to get out. But basically we can filter out self from things like that. So there are several of those in this one and the next one, and no doubt in future.
Yeah, I'm sure I made a lot of procs that didn't filter because
we couldn't
filter.
But now we can.
Now that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Templar devotion won't heal damage initiated by yourself, for example, by falling. Okay. That was a small update. Let's go to July 28th. Backer, so we reset purchase rewards. The Tiny Tyranny campaign was reset. We wiped the Spirit Banks, and all Eternal Kingdoms reset. Yep, that happens. Campaigns. Lots of campaign issues got fixed the week of the 28th. Fixed a number of wall and tower assets that were appearing invisible. Not a good thing. Locked the gates. Only members of the owner faction can go through them. Yep, we have the little teleporters. The act of capturing a fort or keep will now break the players out of stealth. Yeah, we're getting better at breaking people out of stealth because it's kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I think Mark actually gave us a way now, and I put a... I'm listening for a proc event now if you want to use it, which is break me out of stealth. Basically, I did something that can break me out of stealth.
Oh, we just have that as a thing now?
It's just a thing, and you can listen for that thing, and I was going to put it into the... hi, Doggett. I was going to put it into the Assassin common passive as well for their stealth. Basically, we can break it anywhere we want to now, and it's just listening.
Fantastic.
And it will go ahead and do the things that remove you from stealth.
Yay.
Yay. It was very custom coded for the duelist because he was our first. Right. Hippos should no longer show the build area blocked icon on the timer. In fact, that was Z fighting with the other icon, the actual countdown, and made it just look weird. So Z fighting is it was trying to draw a tooth. It didn't know which thing to show you. They was constantly fighting which one was being in the front, so it looked like it was flickering. Yeah, not so good. Fixed an issue with aiming catapults, floating catapults, a display issue with projectiles, and a camera issue with rotating catapults. Resurrecting catapults, basically is what that is. Players will no longer be stuck inside a catapult when they use it. In fact, I think Cool Waters was the one who got stuck in a catapult for a weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
No matter what character he came in on. That's funny.
All catapults, all the time. The new technology today has catapult.
Collected the problem with the player dying on or near a catapult interaction and blocking other players from interacting with it. That's a good one. Fixed broadcast messages issues relating to changes to the ownership of keeps and forts. So it was sending out messages, but it was sending them out to you. Just you.
Okay.
Just you. It wasn't sending it out to the team, but just you. So you were seeing it, but nobody else on your team was seeing it. Fixed. You want to do the general ones?
Sure. Let's see. Fix a calculation error which caused child attributes to get 200% of their modifiers. This was the most noted by the, hey, everybody has 8,000 spirit or whatever it was. Everybody had capped spirit. That was basically due to that, right?
Yep.
Because everybody was getting double.
I think it was the 3,000 spirit weekend.
Yes, double. That's exactly where I was going with that. The double spirit weekend. Next one, players can no longer invite themselves into their own group, which you know,
who knows what that did?
Yeah, I mean, you're just basically counterfeiting yourself, right?
Right, but it probably triggered all the procs for the group leadership passive.
Yeah, it was probably doing all sorts of interesting and deleterious things. Fixed an issue with plentiful harvest diamonds that appear on harvestable resources are not visible.
Okay.
Okay. Addressed an issue with the main menu advanced settings scroll bar does not get bigger when hitting the plus button. That's good. That's a good thing. Advanced graphics settings should now be saved and applied. Also good. Fixed jumping issues that made it possible to jump up and over a wall.
Okay.
Holding F to release should no longer loop the hold timer, which could sometimes cause weird things to happen on death. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, right. Secure trade window is now ready for functional testing. To initiate a trade, use the command/trade player name in the command window. This will cause a trade request to appear, etc., and so definitely test that.
That's just one of the things, right? Building the MMO is not.
There are a lot of pieces.
There's just we call it the pile of little gravel pieces, and you have to move them 1 tablespoon at a time. And it takes a while to move a mountain of pebbles. And this is just one of the things.
Added monsters to Tiny Tyranny, so you can get your leather on. Fixed conflict issue between overlapping F to interacts, kind of as above. For some powers, objects in the scene were absorbing damage intended for enemy combatants. Yes.
So Mark has a maniacal laugh on that one because it is definitely... You shoot, and there's an enemy right in front of you, and for whatever reason, the barrel that you don't see that's half submerged right in front of his foot takes the hit.
Right. It'd be like, I'm like, bang, 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 but you didn't see the pen! You didn't see the pen was there. You hit the pen.
Ah! Yeah. So again, that's part of those thousand things.
The 1,000 things. So happy to get that fixed. Fixed issues with chat channels and focus of chat window. Fixed strange graphical issue with Rangers and Crow. EK tool. Players can no longer place parcels outside the parcel grid in the EK tool. On page? Yeah, I am. Okay.
Yeah, you're on page 8.
Fixed bug that caused parcels to not be able to be dragged in on the outer edge of some sides of the grid. Okay.
Yep.
The world map is now completely revealed when viewing it in an EK.
Seems reasonable.
That's, yeah, why would you have fog of war if you're building it? Come on. Contained buildings now spawn with the proper rotation relative to the building that contains them. Now we're on to disciplines. Fix an issue with discipline data persisting on a character after being deleted and removed.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good fix.
That is good stuff. Range combat. Expanded the gather radius of abilities that use soft targeting, which makes aiming much more forgiving. And that is direct result of forum feedback that we got immediately after doing the soft targeting changes that were awesome for melee, apparently not so awesome for range, because all of a sudden it meant you had to be super accurate to hit, whereas before a lot of times we were using ray casts, which are really more like beam of wood cast almost, because they actually had a fair
yeah, they were thick ray casts.
Yes, they were chunky. It was a chunky weight, like you're shooting a Twix bar out at people. I just ate a Twix.
That would be a delicious thing. You know what? Yes.
What? Twix bars.
Twix bars.
So anyway, we changed it to an actual ray, a for reals ray, which all of a sudden meant you had to be super accurate, which you guys didn't like. So I turned it back into a Twix bar. Well, it's not really a Twix bar, but I actually so we have the ability to. Because basically what we're doing is we're shooting out a sphere cast with these and doing a bunch of other stuff. And so what I did was increase the radius of the sphere cast, so it's closer to how it was.
So it's a fat sphere cast.
It is a fat sphere cast. Well, it's just a sphere cast, and the sphere is much larger as opposed to a Twix cast, which we had before.
But that would be far more delicious.
It would actually be more delicious. I should actually note too, there is a side effect to this that is still not great, but it is better than before, in that if, for example, let's see, we don't have enough people here, just Blair, but imagine there was this pen, and this pen is actually a person this time, not an object. What that means, even if I'm aiming at Blair, if the pen, the pen still might get struck by the sphere cast, so that means there's still an issue where in a tight sort of furball sort of situation, you are more likely to hit somebody close to you than somebody on your reticle. That is something we're probably going to address and make better. There's lots of this.
We know how to.
Yeah, we know how to solve it.
We know how to solve this one. We've solved this before. We did it on DC.
Right.
We've been here before. It's just engineering time.
Yeah. So we will. This will get better, but for now, things should be much closer to where they were before.
Zybeck gave us a hot dog.
Oh, I like hot dogs. Thank you for that. Where am I? Where am I today? We're deep in the underground bunker in Texas. Okay.
No, you guys are in the Vatican.
We're in the Vatican.
Yeah, why didn't you put us in an underground, like a fallout shelter?
Because that'd be kind of.
We'll do that next time. That's where the trip will be next time.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see. Fixed an issue causing resource costs to be spontaneously changed. Okay, so actually this is very much one of those issues you guys never saw that only hit us internally. So you never saw that, and it got fixed before you saw it.
Great.
Improvements made to the aiming mechanism of channeled and charged powers. I believe that was the Ranger charge fix.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's a way of saying that without actually saying it was a Ranger charge fix, and that's us telling you it was actually the Ranger charge fix. Fixed an issue that caused players to be unable to use powers abilities on power blackout state. That sounds bad. I'm not sure.
I don't know what shit that was either.
Druid. I'm not sure what this one is either. This one, the flag or something like that. Actually, it sounded like an engineering fix. Maybe. I'm not sure what that was, to be honest. Oh, you know what? I bet you that was another variation of the channel charge fix.
I think it was.
Knight Noble Blood now properly displays a buff icon for the barrier effect. Just didn't have one, so I put one on there. So there you go.
Okay.
Fixed an issue where the barrel tray would be broken and stealth state was inconsistent between client and server. I believe you mentioned some of the stuff you were working on for improving that, and some of the tech that we had to make that mo better. Then we're to lists of known issues, and we're up to August 7th. That's yesterday, isn't it?
That was Friday. Thursday.
So Friday. One of those days that happened.
Yeah, today's the 11th.
No,
what?
Today's the
8th.
Okay, so that
So it was
yesterday.
yesterday.
So, all right.
Wow.
We've never been this current.
Where the hell are we?
We're in the Vatican.
We're in the Vatican, apparently.
All right.
Time travel.
Fix the issue with players being unable to use a catapult more than once and being unable to dismount catapults. So I guess what you had your one catapult ticket and was used up. No, that's not what happened. I'm making things up. Logging out. Logging out of the game while using a catapult no longer results in a broken login state! Exclamation point. We're happy about that.
Yeah, we're very happy about that one.
Other quality of life changes have been added to the catapult use and interaction. Generally,
of course, devs don't know the date.
no.
Like,
well, I mean, come on, right? I mean, it's all just one.
It's just one big mass of bugs and new stuff and legionnaires going away and clerics, and you're like, character sheet,
What day is it? We're in the Vatican today. I don't know. Capture toast events should now be broadcast to all players.
Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii.
Yeah,
Where's my Hawaiian vacation?
I know. Gordon's going to Hawaii, and we're in the Vatican.
Yeah, come on. The F to interact radius has been adjusted to fix the issue of not being able to capture a dragon statue. Sort of important.
Yeah, well, and again, the dragon statue is going away for capturing. It's going to go on the throne, which is where it's supposed to be. And there's a lot of bugs that are related to it being on the dragon statue. It being high, druids blinking to the top, the timer
just the fact that it's a dragon statue.
Yes.
Doing stuff.
Okay, tin. We added tin to Bloodbath. Great.
Tin.
Fixed a bug with the bank interaction not working. Okay. Respawn rules have been updated. Bounce enemies back to the beachhead or temple if they log out in an enemy fort or keep. I believe we had somebody who was logging a bunch of alts.
That's right.
At the... Thank you for showing us the error of us not putting...
Of
our ways. And, yes. There you go. A message will be shown when moving a player on login. Yep, you're getting bounced back to the beachhead. And, that's also like, hey, my keep or fort got taken.
Yeah.
I was offline. I log in. I shouldn't also get punished with instant death because I log into the enemy's base.
Right.
Plus, obviously, you have an advantage that you can do things when you're in there. So we're just going to bounce you back to the beachhead. Fix the interact highlight blinking on wall pieces while they are building and after they are built. That's an interesting one. Simply because just like the character sheet showed us that we had some bugs in our stats, that interact highlight shader showed us that we had some objects that were placed too close because they were essentially Z-fighting in the physics sim. And I'm sure that's not doing nice things to the physics sim when you have all these walls that are...
Trying to figure it out.
No, I'm on top, I'm on top, I'm on top, I'm on top.
No.
Yeah. So, walls with barrier now self-destruct after 15 minutes starting when the barrier goes down. Basically, you can't leave walls in a half-busted state for too long. So we're just going to reset it back to the hippo. Children's stats are no longer getting 2x value of their attribute multipliers. Yes. I think that one is specifically talking about the armor mitigation ones.
Right, which is actually a different...
Correct.
A different 2x.
The key binding switch dialog now appears when trying to change key bindings. Okay, Sam's been working on that stuff. Re-enabled settings toggle in the docked UI so you don't have to go to the escape menu. Added interaction shaders to the harvesting nodes, stone or graves and trees. Basically so you know what you're highlighting, right? We knew we always had to do that. Fix the issue of the player avatar looping between sitting and standing when logging out. I think you just sit now.
No, sit down.
No,
yep. Hey, we're in the Vatican.
Interaction keys, pressing F or G can now be remapped. Barriers treated like nodes in that respect, then.
So that they, well, I had the words and now they're gone. They reset after a period of time. So if you hit a node,
yeah, if you partially damage it, we also destroy it after a couple minutes. We increased the maximum camera zoom height for building placement. Okay, houses and other buildings should now be easier to place on uneven terrain. Building mode now starts you zoomed out more. Placeable buildings that had their rotation modified while dragging around now work like the rest of the placeables. Okay. Crafting, advanced staff. Added a power cost multiplier experimentation to the assembly of the druid staff limb and staff heel. Yes, so druid staffs you can now make an advanced one. It's beneficial rather than getting stuck with the basic. They were using the basic one. PCM should now be available experimentation option during the crafting process for this weapon. Increase the outcome amount for arrows and advanced arrows. Basic arrows outcome is now 100 and advanced arrows is now 500. More than likely a temporary thing until we get factories online. So of course they'll get used to it, and then we put factories online, and you will probably have factory crates of arrows. I mean, that's what we did in Galaxies for all our consumables. That just was a thing. It's just, for those of you who don't know what a factory crate is, it is basically a single inventory object that produces multiple...
Right.
Whatever.
It's like a box, basically.
Yeah.
Or a crate.
Or a crate that holds lots of things. In this case, it will hold lots of identical factory crafted things, and you can just click it and it just magically appears. The effort went into the crafter making that thing, and I would imagine that munitions crafters will just craft factory crates of arrows and sell them to your heart's desire. It's just where we are in testing. We're not there yet. Basics hit like wet noodles.
Crates equals crates.
Confirmed.
All right.
Best way to put it. Crates are like crates. Again, old min-max experimentations that got missed. Sizing and rotation on harvesting tools during harvesting animations have been adjusted. I think it was just they were appearing extra large and off to the side rather than the way they should. Master of Daggers. Steel Soul should no longer continue to increase to infinity. How about that?
Yes. Indeed.
Yes, we had a low-level power bug that Mark and Steven kind of nailed down, and now it shouldn't happen ever again.
Yeah, it was actually, there were implications to that fix that were good, I guess. I don't know.
Basically, it was one of those fixes that we fixed. We found
it
one.
had nothing to do with Steel Soul or Master of Daggers or really anything. It was something totally...
But this was the thing that was showing the symptoms,
yeah.
And it gave us a repro case for it, which was great, which means that we could fix the low-level problem, and now it will never happen on any other power, which we love fixes like that.
Yeah.
Generally, we hate it when it's like, sometimes this power does this specific thing.
Well, actually, now that I remember exactly what the problem it was, so we use the concept of stacks. Right, so we can say something, this thing does not stack with this thing, or this thing does stack with this thing. And so what was happening here was some kind of crazy race condition that could happen where the stack system just broke completely. So, and that's really bad because we rely on that stack system for a lot of things.
We were reducing the duration to 0, which means it lasted forever.
Yeah.
Because it was a stat modifier, which generally we don't modify stats without a duration. So Steven prevented us from ever doing that in the future in the code, and the code should no longer reduce those things to a 0 value, which means we're good.
Right.
But again, we love doing fixes like this because it just fixes bigger things than just this one problem. Plague Lord. Festering wounds will now properly cause your target to become exposed if they use a heal while the effect is active.
Or maybe not, because apparently there might still be a problem with that. It's one of the things I'll be looking at today.
Relic question. When I'm deleting heaps of random mats, Relic will actually be a feature that I can feed mats into for buffs and stuff. Yes, that is a feature that we are definitely adding. Can you get them to address PCM when they are ready for questions?
If you scroll up, they'll posted a chunk of PCM questions.
Sometimes Rangers use 10k arrows in 1 weekend, and how he thinks to fix carrying that around.
10,000 arrows? I would like...
That's a lot of arrows.
That is a lot of arrows.
Is that a real number, or is that just times 10? Kind of like, Warhammer 40k? Everything is just times 10,000, right? Because
Senator Hyperbole of California.
The Emperor needs to eat 10,000 souls a day to stay alive. That's a lot of souls to eat in 1 day to stay alive in the Golden Throne, for those of you who are Warhammer 40k fans, but it sounds like a really big number. So is 10,000 arrows a realistic number, or is it like...
It's real.
Okay. We'll put a tracker in just to make, because it's
the arrow tracker.
I'd like to see the average amount of arrows, and I wonder if it's just because
we need to know.
Yeah, right? We need to know to obviously to tune it, and if rapid fire is eating like
all of your arrows,
then yeah, we can definitely look at that. Okay, Master of Shields. See, these Q&As are great.
When we can see them.
Now that we can see the chat, this is awesome.
More giant TVs.
We'll just get a whole other giant TV just for you guys.
Yep. Master of Shields. Fix the issue with this discipline taking stamina instead of mana from the druids. Okay. Firewall now puts the caster into combat. All right, good fix. Critical dodge can now occur more than 2x in 45 seconds.
Yeah, and I think that's actually wrong because the bug was that it could occur more than twice.
Yeah, I thought you made it so that it could only happen once.
Right. It was
we have an internal cooldown on all of our procs.
It's only twice in 45 seconds is what it's supposed to be. It wasn't doing that. It was just letting you do it and do it and do it.
Okay. So. Burning hatred can no longer trigger from damage done to yourself, such as from falling. Okay.
More of that.
Updated Burning Hatred tooltip to make it clear that it heals a percentage base. Great. Here's that bug again mentioned with the double mitigation. Being rooted no longer blacks out powers. Yes, that weekend playtest. Yes. I think it was actually because the character wasn't considered grounded when they were rooted. And all our powers require you to be grounded. And because you weren't grounded, you couldn't do any powers, so... Apparently, everyone played characters who could root that weekend. I wonder why.
Because they like them.
I don't know. We need to scroll back up to his PCM question. So that way people stop accusing us of dodging the question.
You have a mouse.
I can't use the mouse. My hand is holding paper.
I'm sorry.
I have interns to use the mouse.
That's right.
That's why you're here, Jack.
That's what I'm here for.
Address the issue with Will-o-the-Wisp, Natural Bond, and Power causing a problem with the Essence Pool. I have no clue what that problem was.
That problem was, oh yeah, so this was, actually no, that went live. It was an issue with basically Unity for changing values and me not realizing it had done that. So
PCM is the least popular mechanic since root motion. Least popular.
Least popular.
You haven't seen some of the new mechanics.
Yeah, we... Just wait.
You just wait.
We can top that. Challenge.
Excuse me. With the skill wipe to crafters, will you consider lowering the weapon PCM to a final PCM modifier of 0.1? Maybe. Again, that system, I mean, you guys use it every weekend, so you're probably more, you feel it more. Balancing will come. And for us, we've already changed the scale in 5.3, so sometimes what's in our brains and what you're playing is a little out of date because we're already playing the future. So, yeah. I mean, shields have PCM on them now in 5.3, so because we have primary and secondary, and shield's now a secondary shield weapon, so it has more stats. So, again, we'll see the numbers change definitely. There will always be a balance sweep to powers cost. Like, it doesn't stop. Like, it's an MMO.
Yeah.
Like, we just keep going forever, making tweaks. And basically, when you put something new in, you need to re-hit it with the sandpaper. You're constantly sanding. And when you have 500, and probably by launch we'll have another couple hundred powers in there, we're always going to be tweaking.
There's always going to be tweaking.
There's always tweaking to do. Which is great, because it's happening now, and not in actual live.
Right.
So,
well, and the thing is, we will still do it in live.
Yeah,
I mean,
we will.
The reality of one of my favorite analogies to use is, I don't know if anybody ever follows Smash Brothers, but people still compete, play competitive Smash Brothers for a game that is cartridge based and hasn't been updated in now more than a decade.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact of the matter is, if you track who the best was and who was OP, it actually changes. The game hasn't changed in more than a decade, but who the best is changes over time because the meta changes, right? And that will happen with us too.
Yep.
Like even if everything is perfectly balanced, it's not really going to be perfectly balanced as people discover new ways to play.
Yep.
Right? And it's really, I mean, that's
the joy of exploration, right? We make these deep things you guys can customize, and then someday the least popular discipline becomes the most popular because somebody figured out something to do with that one. So that's what we build towards. Okay, we have a very short period of time where known issues anyways. We like to generally show something new and exciting. And this week we are going to show our friend, the High Elf.
Ready for it?
Yeah, we're ready. Are you guys ready for it?
There it is. Because it's there.
Let's show it. I can't see it on my screen yet.
That's because there's a delay.
That's
there will always be a delay.
Why can't Jack make the delay go away?
That's for when I start dropping F-bombs.
Sit there and wait for 30 seconds.
Then they just see you staring for 30 seconds.
So, what is the High Elf? So, the High Elf is what used to be the archetype, the Frost Weaver. It is the Blue Elf. If you play a High Elf as a Confessor, that's going to be a Red Elf. So we're just
Red Elf.
Yeah,
Needs food badly.
Red Elf is about to die. Okay, so what do we give this one? So obviously the High Elves skew towards intellect, and they have a natural 5% elemental mitigation across the board, which means fire, ice, and electric. So they're good. They're good against that. Their High Elf bloodline is dodge clear cast, which means that they can potentially get use a dodge and not consume a pip, and it can happen multiple times. So we had always thought of our High Elves as more athletic, right? Just they were the acrobats as well as the haughty aristocrat types, which may or may not make sense, but that's what we chose to do. So that's what we themed the power on. Humiliate. So this is a debuff that increases the power cost multiplier of the target that gets hit. Yes. Where's power cost multiplier questions? So again, when we put stuff in like this, obviously we have to scale it such that all the numbers make sense. So if you live and die by the values that are in there right now and get all upset, don't. I mean, it's not worth getting upset over, right? We will definitely be tuning things, and we add things like this because they're fun and exciting, and they add a new wrinkle to races. Again, for us, races are super important. We gave them crazy over-the-top powers. I think I saw a video that Zybeck did on why the half-giant is going to be such a good Myrmidon, and he has some pretty good points. And again, we wanted to put in a lot of over-the-top stuff like that. Yeah, use Humiliate on a Druid. And you also see that they get an extra amulet slot. And before Onrez asks, well, what do amulet stats do? They will have stats in the future, along with rings. And these guys get an extra neck slot.
Like the Mr. T.
And if they take the fashion statement minor, I think that they will have access to 3 necklaces as a high elf with fashion statement and the base bonus. Just the base. Everybody gets +1. But fashion statement also reduces your stealth by 25. So your stealth bubble gets actually, you're noisier because you're making a fashion statement. We like to have fun. I mean, what can I say? We like to have fun. Any quick questions? Any quick questions?
Elf Mohawk.
I love that commercial, Zybeck. In fact, I'd go around screaming, Mohawk Grenade! Right? Because they had Mr. T and he was just so excited about... He probably had no clue what the hell a Night Elf Mohawk was. But, again, it's Mr. T. You can't diss Mr. T. I was hoping it meant dodging doesn't animation cancel your current power. No, it's more dodges. Will Noble Purpose trigger from a cleric's block, which heals the entire group, thus granting additional mana to continue blocking?
What's that now?
The Noble Purpose one.
Well, Noble's Purpose. Yeah. It's any healing, so sure.
Given the similarities between walls, wall barriers, and resource nodes, can we note or not have Shadowbane style siege hammers using harvesting tool code and visual damage to wall instead of the basic attacks we have now? Yes, Todd and I have been talking about actually requiring people using their axes to hammer the Tree of Life down, not actually beat on it with a sword. We're definitely going to talk about putting powers in that you beat on walls with and not default powers. Now that we have the tray swapping stuff in the stances in, that will be much easier for us to do, so you may see some of that stuff. Speaking of axes, this is an on-res fix that you will love. We finally figured out why the default axe was so powerful. It wasn't getting its damage type initialized because it's a default, basically what we call an underwear item. That is now happening. So the default axe should only be good for up to tier 1 and tier 2 trees. After that, you're going to have to make a regular axe, and you can't use the default axe forever. I know we've been talking about that one forever. We finally fixed it along with some other things when we were in the combat formula. What kind of dodge will High Elf get? They get... Oh, so the dodges for the races we haven't made yet are not appearing on the racial. Funny enough, because that power doesn't exist yet. As soon as that power exists, it will go on there, and I'm pretty sure that they will get some type of roll / quick slide or whatever. Either one of those two things. They're not getting a teleport. That's for the Wood Elves. Nerf High Elves. Yes, I agree. Is the armor fix coming soon with the health buff reverted? Again, remember we put the health buff in there because we really want factories in there before we pull that back, because we want you guys in really good armor crafted. Right now you're getting 20% from the basic, and that will go away when we get factories as well. Probably crafting stations. I'm hoping we can get crafting stations and factories online at the same time. Would it be possible to get a list of which powers are impacted by the projectile duration training posted on the forums? It's not all projectiles thanks to balance choices made reference in the last stream. Yes. In fact, I'm not sure projectile duration training survived.
I mean, and Blair's exactly right. That is not going to survive. Probably be replaced wholesale with range, with range increasers. Because they did the same thing, right? The projectile duration is just another way of saying that your projectiles last longer, go farther. So we're across the board. It's going to be replaced by in the various and the new versions of the trees with the range.
the new class. I think, in fact, there's still skill trees. They have been a lot of the skills have been pruned, and Mark is in fact working on that right now. How do you plan to apply PCM for dual weapons on 5.3? Each weapon has its own value. However, we don't use damage from the offhand weapon. So feel free to experiment the entirety of your offhand weapon. It basically adds them together. It sums them. It does not average them. But you don't get the damage value from your offhand weapon. So you can do whatever you want with that one. It does activate skills and it does activate stats. So that being said, you can feel free to ignore the damage value on that offhand one if you want to. Which has crafting implications, meaning you can experiment all towards PCM and pump your main hand toward. I mean, again, we're giving you guys lots of options and lots of ways to play with these things.
Are we going to normalize dodge right-click abilities to 10 meters or so?
Yes, the right-click will get normalized in I think that's on us for the teleports. It's a data setting in those powers.
All right, then I'll do that when I get back to my desk. Because why not?
Can you discuss the differences in the cooldown reduction in terms of short and long versions? Can they interact? Are they applied to all powers?
So short is anything less than, what, 10 seconds?
10 seconds.
And long is anything longer than that?
Correct. So basically, we wanted to create a scenario where we could say reduces the cooldown of this thing by 3 seconds. However, if that was on a power that was under 10 seconds, that'd be incredibly powerful, right? So we broke it into short and long duration cooldowns. So reducing a 45-second power by 3 seconds, not as bad as reducing a 5-second power by 3 seconds.
For the most part, we're all doing percentage-based rather than wholesale reductions now. So it is debatable whether we still need both, but we do still have both. Because it's categorically they're different. So
yeah, we have the tech to that, Blaze. And it's just
we are actually, all the cooldown reductions are percentage based right now. It's just we've kept the distinction of having 2 different versions of them.
So we can do things if we want to.
Right.
Yes, actually, if you reduce a 12-second, the 12-second still counts as a long duration one because it's base. It basically counts by what its base is. Okay, we are 10 minutes past, and we have a habit of going over on these things. I'd like to thank everybody who showed up for this. The next one will be, I think Todd is taking the next Q&A in 2 weeks. And that's not the patch note one, that's the generic Q&A, and generally we show you something new. Thanks for showing up. Hope you enjoyed the patch notes and our explanation and our sneak preview of the High Elf. We will see you in-game in Campaign World.
Bye-bye.